Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Roman Poultry Show on a lovely Sunday afternoon in central Pennsylvania. I am so glad that you guys are here and that you have come back for more content. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this very exciting video for today, I would like to remind you guys to like and subscribe. It doesn't take any time. You just go click that subscribe button. It helps a lot. It's going to help grow the channel so we can reach more people and we can put out more important content in the future. So I ask that you subscribe. A lot of the viewers for my previous videos are not subscribed, so please do that and help us meet our goals. We have some goals on this channel of reaching 100 subscribers. It's a big goal. Reaching 1,000 views, and I believe reaching 50 hours of view time. So please help get us to meet those goals. And other than that, thank you for being here, and let's get into the video. So today, the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be discussing is Cenk Uygur and Destiny, also known as Steven, most people call him Destiny, had a debate on the David Pakman show this week. And the debate was fascinating. They debated a few different topics, and I'm going to kind of summarize some of the main points that they made, paraphrasing their words, and kind of explain to you what I thought. So first, what you might be thinking is, what are they debating? These guys are both on the left. They're both content creators on the left. Why would they be debating whenever they would be instead discussing ideas, per se? Well, Destiny and Cenk definitely represent two different wings of the Democratic Party. Depending on who you ask, they may give different opinions on what they actually represent and what they would call themselves, but they definitely represent two different ideas. And they're debating the direction that the party should be headed in the future, and kind of what the deal is with progressivism and the establishment and corporate Democrats and the different wings of the Democratic Party. So that's kind of like an outline of what they were discussing. So now let's talk about the first question. So the first question that David Pakman poses to them is, what direction do you think the party should be headed? And Cenk answers first. And Cenk starts off hot. He says that Destiny represents the loser wing of the party, and that we need to start heading away from the Hillary Clintons, the Joe Bidens, the Bill Clintons, the Kamala Harrises, even the Pete Buttigieg's, he says, which he says Pete Buttigieg is essentially the best corporate robot Democrat that there is, and he says he wants to completely abandon that wing of the Democratic Party. He talks about how secondary media is really starting to rival and surpass mainstream media, and that he thinks that we're headed into an era of politics that is controlled by populism. And he says that Destiny represents the donor class of the Democratic Party, the establishment class, which he does not agree with. He also then says he's trying to divide up the left, and he says that there is the progressive left can be split into two categories. He says that it can be split into the identitarian wing of the party, and it can be split into the economic populist wing. And he says that he identifies with the economic populist, and he says that the corporate wing and the identitarian wing are the flawed wings of the party. So then Destiny gets a chance to speak and respond to that, and he kind of goes into a response where he says that Bernie's comments on the Democratic Party are completely flawed. He states that he doesn't think that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class at all. He says that that's false. He completely blames incumbency and inflation on the loss to Trump, and kind of says, paraphrasing again, says that if progressives are so popular, then why can't they win elections? Why do progressives lose so many elections? Cenk kind of then responds with saying he doesn't believe that it was incumbency that was losing across the world. He said it was change. People wanted to see change, and it was not necessarily just incumbency, but just people wanted a shift in policy, and people are sick of the corporate establishment, and that people were voting against the neoliberal economic policy that is not distributing money to the lowest of the low, but redistributing it to the top and saying it'll trickle down. And that's kind of what Cenk said there. And he responds to Destiny. Also, Destiny had made comments about, well, does it really have to do with progressivism whenever Kamala Harris clearly is better on labor than Donald Trump? And he says, well, yes, Kamala might be better on labor, but Bernie's better than Kamala. Kind of getting more into the clear idea that Cenk is further more on the economic progressive side than Destiny. And then they just start talking about change in mainstream media and big business. And Cenk obviously speaks out a lot against big business and says that Kamala Harris was running a good campaign. And at the beginning of her campaign, she was talking about price gouging, and she was talking about the housing crisis, and she was talking about Tim Walz's economic policies, which are very populist in nature. And then she kind of transitioned and started talking about, look at all my corporate donors. Look at Liz Cheney. She supports me. Look at Dick Cheney. He supports me. Look at me. I carry a gun. And trying to appeal to that more right-leaning audience. And Cenk said that is where the campaign went wrong. And Destiny really does not agree that, throughout this interview, that progressives are even popular. He argues that healthcare for all is not as popular as Cenk makes it out to be. He argues that Bernie Sanders lost in 2016 and 2020 because he was too far left for most Americans. He doesn't buy into the fact that the media is against progressives, which is something that Cenk has spoken out about a lot. And he actually said that a lot of progressives are communists, far left, Hamas supporters who need ousted from the party, because that's why the party keeps losing, is because of the far left. And says that progressives are unelectable, and that they constantly, these left-leaning shows are telling us to run these unelectable candidates that will never win in elections. And that's kind of the main summary there of their debate. Is Cenk saying we need to move further to the economic populist progressive left. Destiny saying we need to stay put with this status quo corporate Democrats because they're more electable and they appeal to a wider range of citizens. Destiny also thinks that these progressive policies are not as popular as Cenk is making them out to be. And Cenk believes that what's not popular is the status quo and constantly never offering real change for Americans. So that's a summary of their debate. Now, let me kind of give my opinion on the different aspects of it. I'm going to start at the beginning and kind of work my way down and explain my opinions. So at the beginning, whenever Cenk is ripping into the, quote, loser wing, as he called it, ripping into Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, do I think that's fair? Well, I do think it's fair. And I agree, overall, in general, with this debate, I do tend to agree more with Cenk's opinions, because I feel like of the way he broke up the Democratic Party, I do agree. I do agree that it is really separating itself into these different wings, and that whereas the Republicans seem to be more united in the MAGA movement, almost all the Republican Party now is the MAGA wing. There's not very much outside of that because everyone has clung to Donald Trump in that way, whereas the Democratic Party has really separated itself and seems to be more divided. And I do see his point about there being a corporate wing, an identitarian wing, and a economic populist wing. And Cenk identifies himself with the economic populist wing, and that would also be the wing that I identify myself with. Therefore, I am subsequently separated myself from Destiny's point of view because Destiny doesn't believe that the things that I preach on this channel are truly popular. He doesn't think that they're electable ideas, and he doesn't think that that's the direction that the party should be headed. All three of those things I disagree with, and I agree with Cenk on. If you look at the way politics is shifting, we are shifting into a populist era, just like Cenk had said. And if you look at Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump is not a populist, he pretends to be. He pretends to care about the everyday working people, and he pretends to have these great, well, he believes it maybe, that he has these great solutions to all of these huge issues like immigration and economics. And he really doesn't, but he pretends to, and he comes across as an authentic populist, even though we know that he just serves his donors, such as Elon Musk, who he's going to do nothing but give everything he wants to in his next term. So I do think that that's the direction that we're headed, and I think that that calls for a Bernie Sanders type of Democrat to lead the future elections of the party. I don't think that keeping on putting up these people who are going to give minimal change, represent very much the status quo of the party, is a good idea. But Destiny believes these people are the only electable people. He thinks it's bogus that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class. Well, I disagree. I think it's completely true because if you really look at it, even though Joe Biden did some genuinely more left progressive economic policies during his term, he did not do nearly the amount of stuff and give nearly the amount of change that we would have wanted. He made marijuana move from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, but he didn't legalize it. He completely tossed out whenever we were looking at the Inflation Reduction Act and the differences between that and Build Back Better. The first thing that he really got rid of whenever he was reframing it into the Inflation Reduction Act was getting rid of a $15 minimum wage. Took that right off the agenda. Why? Because it never was that important to him in the first place. It was kind of something he had thrown on there to appease more of a progressive wing. But then whenever he got the slightest bit of pushback, he took it right off because he never really cared about that. Yeah, he raised the minimum wage for federal employees, but that not most people do not work for the federal government. So he gives minimal changes to the status quo that help minimal amounts of people. But he doesn't do the big sweeping changes that we are looking for. We are looking for universal healthcare for all. At the bare minimum, a public option so people have that choice. That is something that Joe Biden did not campaign on and something that Joe Biden is not going to do. That's something that Pete Buttigieg is probably not going to do, and something that we know Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton aren't going to do as well. So I believe in Cenk's idea that is not the direction that we need to be headed in. We need to be headed in a direction towards economic populism and bringing true change and a redistribution of wealth to the lowest percentages of income earners and not the highest percentages. We know that Donald Trump's tax cuts are going to help the rich significantly more than the low income earners, and that's something that is not okay, and that's something that we cannot uphold. So I agree with Cenk's point on that as well. So then we kind of get into the incumbency, and inflation is the reason that we lost, and that's 100% it. That's kind of Destiny's opinion, which I also disagree with. I feel like, yes, incumbency is a reason for that, but I do more agree with Cenk again. Would the incumbency problem be an issue if Joe Biden had originally ran on universal health care and tuition-free college and these more economic progressive policies? I don't think that would be the case. If he would have pushed through more change for the American people probably wouldn't have the same view on the incumbent party within this election. But Kamala Harris didn't separate herself enough from Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris didn't sell that she was going to be the change candidate. More people thought that Trump was a bigger change, and people wanted more change. People thought Kamala Harris was just another 4 years of Biden. People didn't want another 4 years of Biden. People wanted more change. So I do agree with Cenk and disagree with Destiny on this point. And I feel like throughout this debate, if you go watch it, Cenk just owns Destiny on a lot of these points. And I don't quite even understand Destiny's ideas. I don't understand why he doesn't want these changes. How could you not support uh, universal health care for all? In the program that is suggested is often costs less than our current health insurance system, and also provides health care to way more people. There is no way that anyone in this country should be living without health care, should be living without food, should be living without shelter. These are all things that need handled and things that people should have access to. People need to have the things that they need to survive, and I feel like the government should be more responsible for providing a larger social safety net that provides the basic needs of survival for our American citizens. And I don't think Destiny believes that, and Cenk does. Cenk believes in taking funding out of things that are unneeded and putting them towards things that would be used significantly more. He believes in, hey, if the Pentagon has been audited and there's $400 billion that are completely missing and unaccounted for, why don't we take $400 billion of spending out of the Pentagon and put it into providing these different social programs that would be more beneficial for American citizens? They also debated that. They debated what to do with the Pentagon. As Destiny says, he doesn't want to make any changes in funding because Destiny doesn't represent any change. He wants to keep the status quo the same because he thinks everything is fine the way it is. I don't believe it is. I think that we need to make change. And that's why if you want to make change, then you should go and do something about it. And we should go and do something about it. We should promote candidates that actually represent more change for us and that will represent more change for the people that need it more than us. Because at the end of the day, for people that are comfortable, it doesn't matter quite as much whether or not Donald Trump or Joe Biden is president, you know? But for immigrants, it matters a whole heck of a lot. They provide a lot for our economy, and they are just innocent people who are trying to live lives of happiness with their families. And for them, it makes a big difference that Donald Trump's president. Same for people that can't afford basic things. And now Donald Trump's going to impose massive tariffs, which are going to raise the prices on everyday goods that they already can barely afford. Cutting social safety nets, making cuts to Social Security and Medicare. These are things that people are really negatively impacted by. And that is why we need someone who's going to come in and expand these programs, which Destiny also doesn't seem to be much in favor of. His idea of a prosperous healthcare agenda would be expanding Medicare and Obamacare slightly, not offering universal healthcare for all, which he lies and claims is unpopular, even though it is massively popular. Same with paid family leave, paid sick leave, all these things that are massively popular. And he plays into the corporate media and their agenda of not allowing progressives to get the proper media coverage that they need to spread great ideas to the public that they know are popular. Destiny says that there's no bias in the media against progressives. That's bogus. Progressives can barely get on mainstream media at all, and whenever they do, it's only as a ploy to bash other people. Like Marianne Williamson being on Fox News was only ever a ploy to bash Joe Biden, not to actually express her ideas for a populist, economic, progressive America. And I think that the media ecosystem on the left is heavily biased against progressives, and the only people that are able to speak progressive ideas to a large audience are in the independent media sector, which our politicians won't go on. So at the end of the day, I agree with Cenk on almost everything in this conversation. I think he kind of owned Destiny in the debate. I would encourage you to go check it out. And I would encourage you also to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for everything that you've done, and for all the views that you're giving me. I am so appreciative of that. And the last thing I wanted to say before I kind of close up this video about Destiny is that calling progressives communist, far left Hamas supporters and saying that they're the reason we keep losing is absolutely insane. It's absolutely bogus. It's absolutely not true. It's lies, and it's more corporate propaganda that needs shut down. So I hope that more people speak out against this kind of wing of the Democratic Party that doesn't want any real positive change for Americans. Saying that Bernie Sanders is too far left for Americans is bogus whenever the majority of his policies are actually supported by over 2/3 of Americans. These things are just simply false. And if you agree with these policies and disagree with Destiny's points, then comment down below. Comment down below if you support universal health care, if you support paid family leave, paid sick leave, legalized cannabis, legalized other things as well, legalized all kinds of different medications like psychedelics for different uses. I think that we need to move towards a more progressive era in the Democratic Party, and I think that we need to move towards the economic populist wing. So if you agree with that, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. God bless, and have an amazing rest of your Sunday.